Hi guys, Shane here at Whelan Cameras, and today I want to talk you through the zoom system that we have in. So what are they and why do you need one? First thing you'll notice about your H4n Pro is that it comes in this really handy hard case. I have a H4 myself, I've used it for many years, and they drop, they fall, and they get given to somebody else and they get pushed over the edge of tables. These things can take a bit of a battering. My particular hard case has been through an awful lot of trouble and it's cracked and damaged and broken all over the place, but the H4 itself is still perfectly intact. So these little devices, even though they look fairly lightweight, they're actually pretty durable. I would recommend perhaps getting an additional case for something like this. They're quite valuable and they can be quite delicate. But if you have this, it is a preliminary caution and it does just make a bit of a difference if it falls and drops in those situations. So here it is, it looks like this. It's called a handy recorder because it records and it's fairly handy and pretty straightforward. You can hold it and do interviews like this with people. So you could use it, say, as a journalist or a reporter. You can get smaller versions which can be easier to move on the go. But if you are looking to do something like Vox Pops, this is a great device that you can use and just hold it up to people and chat away to them there and record it. The H4n has built-in stereo inputs here, so what this will give you is a nice wide field of view, a nice wide audio input. So it's going to capture everything in the center and a good bit on the edges as well. You can rotate the audio input from 90 to 120, and what that will do is it widen it out even further. So for situations where, let's say you're in a band and you want to capture a recording session, you can put this down on a table, make it 120 on both stereo inputs, and it'll capture a really wide sound input. So it'll capture everything in the room, including your coughs and your laughs and all that, but it'll also pick up all that really nice sound of you guys practicing. So that's really popular for musicians who are doing that kind of work. If you're doing an interview again, say, and you want to use it like you might use a shotgun mic, you can put it back to the 90 degrees, put it on top of your camera, and now it's going to have a little bit more condensed, so it's going to capture that person speaking. So as I say, very versatile, useful for a wide range of audio situations, from Vox Pops to band recordings to interviews. And it's also very light. Even though it looks quite large and chunky, it weighs under a pound, something you can fit into your bag, put it in there, not worry about it. Now for more professional gear, you can input here to XLR mics or 7mm jacks, 1/4" jacks. You can put those in here, and what you can do is something called 4-track or multi-track. So you could have, let's say you're doing a podcast and you have 2 or 3 people doing your podcast and you want them all to be mic'd up really nice with a big condenser mic. So you can put 2 of those mics in here and have this one on your third person. So one person speaking into your stereos at the front, one XLR in to a mic over here, one XLR in to a mic over there, and now you have a 3 mic setup. Or again, you could have room noise and have it capturing everyone in the room. But for something like a podcast, it's really nice to get that rich, deep sound. And the benefits of a multi-track is that while one person is speaking, you can dampen the volume in your editing on the other people without affecting every single thing as one. With a stereo, everything that comes in is what comes out. So if you have 4 people speaking and you want to reduce the sound of 3 of them while increasing the sound of one person, that's going to be quite difficult with your stereo. But with those XLRs, you can have them as each separate lines, so now you can increase and reduce the volume as you need to. So again, something that's really good for a studio environment. So journalists, musicians, interviews, studios, this thing can do everything, and very handy. I know I keep saying that, but it is such a versatile piece of kit. The only thing that it can't do, you can't change out your stereo here, so you're kind of stuck with that. And it also has buttons, so if you're in the middle of a recording, let's say you're doing an interview with someone, and you realize that, oh, actually my levels are too low, and you want to increase your levels without stopping and starting the interview again, you have to push a button. and those buttons click. So you're going to hear those clicks in your audio. So it's the one downside of it really is that it has these buttons. So if you realize that you need to adjust your volume, you kind of need to stop and start again. Now you can get separate USB interfaces. You can do an interface through your laptop, and you can get these really cool little remotes, which will negate that. So if you get the remote, or you do a USB interface through your laptop, you can then adjust the settings without having to touch those buttons. So those are the two drawbacks to the H4n Pro. You've got the stereo input here that's baked in, you can't adjust that, and it has the buttons, so when you're on the go, you can hear the clicks of those buttons. So that is really where the H5 comes in. So we'll put the H4 over here for a second, and I'll show you guys the H5. Alright. The first thing you're going to see is it's bigger. It's definitely bigger. Your hard case is, well, to my mind, probably about the same quality, but it looks a bit chunkier, and it looks like it could take a bit more of a beating. It's weightier. Definitely a lot more has gone into this. It's got that foam on the inside. Really, really nice bit of padding. Again, just keeping your equipment safe. Here, you've got an additional pouch, which can help to keep dust off. So obviously the quality here has stepped up. You'll also see the difference here. It does have a stereo mic input, but this one looks a bit different. Now it'll do the same thing, it's still a stereo. You can't adjust it for that extra width like the other one, but what you can do is take it off. Now the reason why you would want to take it off is because this thing is modular. So you have a stereo that it comes with, but you can also get a shotgun mic, you can get a lapel mic, you can get I think it's a condenser mic, and you can put those on, so you can get a few different heads, and depending on the environment, the situation that you need, you can adjust it for what you need it to do. That is a huge benefit to have. Again, like I was saying earlier, if you want to do those interview style situations, you can have a shotgun mic at the front. It's going to pick up just that person speaking, and it really makes a big difference in your audio. Or you can put the lapel mic on, lapel them up, you get absolutely perfect sound from a lapel mic. Maybe you are a band and you want to get that big room noise, there's a mic for that as well. So very, very versatile. Much more so than the H4 because it's modular. So this for me is a big win. I do really enjoy things that are modular, and it just means that you can bring it to a lot of different places. And instead of buying 4 or 5 different recorders that can each do different things, you have one recorder and you just change your mic input. So a big, big benefit. The other thing about this is it has dials. I cannot stress how good the dial system is. I presume if you're watching this, put dials across everything. I will pay more for dials. I'm totally happy with that. Dials are great because you can change them without there being a click or a sound of you changing them. Obviously your volume will increase, and that can be noticeable. But for vox pop situations, on the go, or where something goes wrong, let's say you're recording a piece of theater and there's a really quiet scene and it goes on for 5 or 10 minutes and you need to adjust your sound while that scene is happening, or you're at a dance show and suddenly a big loud track comes on, you're in a place where there's lots of dynamic energy coming through and the volume is very dynamic, you need to be able to adjust on the fly. So that is where the dial system can make a huge difference. So you have your dials for your stereo mics here, and you also have dials for your 1 and 2 XLRs, which this also has as well. So it has the benefits of the H4 in that it has the XLRs, but it's got the additional benefits of those dials and the additional benefit of it being modular. I would pick the H5 over the H4 pretty much all the time, but the H4 does have its uses, and the H5 is a bit more expensive, so if it's out of your price range, the H4 is an excellent recorder that will do a lot of what you need it to do. But if you can go for that little bit extra, I would recommend the H5, because I do think that most people, most of the time, will benefit from having those dials, and you'll benefit from getting the additional modular headsets. So if you're using a recorder like this, generally you'll be using a audio software system, so something like Audacity if you want something that's cheap and cheerful, maybe you have Logic if you're more of a Mac user, or you could have Audition if you're on the Adobe system as well. Adobe, I never really know, what is it? Does anyone know? please inform me, help me out. So if you are using audio software, then generally you will have a lot of access to those kind of effects, and most of the time I do find that doing them in post-production is better than doing them in your recorder here, because once you record it and you put it in here, it's kind of baked in, and it's very hard to get rid of that then. Whereas if you record it clean and you just record it as it is and then fiddle around with that afterwards, you can do a lot of changes and also undo those changes, which is even more important a lot of the time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to play, but things go very wrong. And also, of course, you have your headphone inputs and you have line out inputs. You have your remote trigger, you have menu systems, and you have additional, and you have your tripod as well. So you can mount this to a tripod or anything that has a tripod thread. And I have actually put this tripod thread into a Manfrotto monopod, and I've used it as a boom pole, kind of a make your own boom pole situation. And booming it can be really nice. You can have this over someone's head and the voice can go up into it, and it's really nice and really rich. But you can also put it on a tripod and just leave it in a room, and that can be really useful. So that is the H4 and the H5 in a nutshell. Generally the audio quality of them is very similar, especially if you're working with just the two stereo inputs. So if you're working off the two stereos, they're very similar. Obviously you have to know what you're doing. There's a little bit of learning there with them, but they're not going to produce vastly different quality of sound. They'll both produce excellent sound. They're very good at what they do. They're specifically designed to take that lovely audio quality that you can work with. So if you're worried about the H5 having better audio, don't worry about that. They're generally going to have great audio as long as you know what you're doing. But what you will get with the 5 is the additional microphone inputs, which can affect your audio quality, and those dials, which again can limit any destructive noise that comes into the situation. So if you're on a bit of a budget and you just want something that's going to have lovely audio and a little bit of fun with some of those effects, go for the H4n Pro. It's an excellent piece of kit, and it will do what you need it to do. If you have the little bit extra and you want to fail safe against things, you want to have those backup options, you want to have those dials, you want to have the modular, go for the 5. It will not let you down. So there you are, guys. I hope you learned something there about audio. I'll be doing another little bit about audio over the next couple of days. There's a lot to learn there, and I'm also learning myself constantly. If you have any thoughts, let us know. If you have any questions, pop them in to the thingy down below. And yeah, thanks very much for listening, guys, and we'll see you again soon.